Okay, I hope you guys are ready to go. It's Wednesday, so we're a couple days late on this Monday market report. I guess we all call it the Wednesday market report. Normally, the Monday market report is what follows after a busy auction week. So we are going to be taking a look at things that happened last week on greatcollections.com. One of our favorite auction websites. I would say if we're doing like a stack rank of auction websites that deal specifically with coins, Great Collections probably at the very top. They've moved the needle and their market share to a whole new level. I think it's the consistency of doing weekly shows and just having some of the premier pieces out there for collectors, for investors, for registry set people. That's kind of like where they sit. And then from there, you have your heritage auctions. I would say they're second place. Stacks Bowers, probably a good third place. And then you could kind of make the argument on a few of the other ones from there. David Lawrence is another big one as well. What we don't show though, however, is things that happen on eBay. And I get it. I've had a few people that have asked me, well, why don't we talk about graded coins that have sold on eBay? It seemed like it'd be a little bit more approachable, but it's not as consistent. And furthermore, with these deeper pocket collectors and investors, they prefer to go somewhere, I guess, as like the biggest roundup of the coins that they want to invest in, and having to deal with one party as opposed to buying like 10 coins from 10 different people on eBay. Dealing specifically with one source is a pretty important aspect to the online auction scene, and that's why Great Collections is there in the forefront. So we're going to take a look at all of the notable modern graded coins here from last week. There is a fair share of it, but I will say that as of this taping, the Florida United Numismatist Show is currently happening right now. And guess what? It's in Florida, I believe in Orlando. This is their summer event. They do it twice a year. One of the bigger national shows. So when something like that happens, Great Collections kind of throttles back a little bit on putting up some of the bigger marquee pieces that have more weight, more value out there. They don't want to kind of like overlap a big national show, so that way it allows kind of like the money to just be divvied out more evenly, I suppose, from week to week. All right, so quick little shout out to our channel sponsor, Whatnot. I saw on the platform each and every single week. We're currently in the middle of a summer promotion. We're giving away thousands of dollars and awesome stuff. It's not too late to be a part of it. We are going all the way to July 31st. And it's your efforts of what you do on the platform, on the Blue Ridge Silverhound channel, on Whatnot, that's going to make all the play in the world. We got the QR code right on screen. Go ahead and scan it in if you're not signed up. You get $15 off your first item if you use my code there. If you're not digging the QR code, we will also have the just a regular hyperlinks down below in the description box and also pinned to the comment section of this video if that suits you better. All right, so we're going to go ahead and jump right in, see what we got going on here. What I will say, as a general observation of the like 24 coins we're going to talk about, they're not all registry sets. I know some of you are anti-registry, because spending thousands of dollars on a coin that's barely 10 years old just doesn't seem very sensical to a lot of people, and I get it. But we have, I would say, for the first time in a while, a very diverse offering this week. But we do still have a couple registry coins, like this 1954 S. While the date is certainly not the rarest in terms of high top census grades, there becomes a time where there's a certain grade level where there's just not nearly enough of them out there. Mid-State 68 is indeed that great. Now, this one right here, graded by NGC, you can see the little white prongs all over the place holding the coin in there. And this one, even still today, is going to have its place in a registry set in spite of the NGC plastic. PCGS, of course, is the standard bearer of grading and registries. So it might be that this one gets flipped into a PCGS holder, but there's no guarantee that's going to come back in an 8 grade. But still, nice showing here this week at $2,363.73. Just further, just really showcasing, putting a spotlight on registries, even on a week where there's not nearly as many top pop coins to talk about. Doing very well this week. 1949S Lincoln Wheat Cent is the next one up on the list. Kind of crazy. I don't know if you guys noticed, we completely leapfrogged Lincoln Memorials. We're usually good for about a good 4 or 5 great Lincoln Memorial cents. There wasn't any this week, and again, that's more of kind of like coinciding with the fun show that's happening right now. That's dialing back on some of the bigger pieces. 49S, I mean, not too bad. It is not the top grade, all right? So this is kind of like you're willing to settle for something like this if you're in a registry program of Lincoln Cents. Mid-State 67 plus red, CAC certified. Of course, it's no slouch of a grade. And CAC standing firmly behind that grade, is going to be impactful. This would be kind of like a great second place finish type of coin here. $1,518.75 was the concluded sale on this one. And we also have its stablemate 1949 Philly. This one right here, I mean, it looks like polar opposites. The S Mint and the P Mint look like two completely different coins from a quality standpoint. Obviously, Philadelphia coins for quite a long extended period of time during the, I'd say, mid-30s, going all the way up to the 60s. It just wasn't as well polished compared to Denver and San Francisco minted coins. So in this particular case, we have a Mid-State 67 red. I believe this is not the top grade. I think 7 plus is for a 1949. That's very notable there. Doesn't even have a cat green sticker as well. But even still, this one ended up selling for $2,362.50. Over $800 more than the previous coin. That is half a grade point higher and got a cat green bean on there. So, case in point, we understand just how tough it is to obtain the elusive 7 grade on any Philadelphia minted coin of a 30-year kind of span here. So if you're going to get into it, again, not financial advice, expect a little bit of a challenge coming ahead of you. That's kind of what makes the hobby fun. There's a lot of parity involved here that could shoot it any which way, but it'll also keep you on your toes. 1918, yeah, we've dove all the way back to the teens here. Just a nice, I would say this is probably more along the lines of one that is going to be for a higher end type collection than it is registry. Because I know folks that want this coin, they prefer to have that 7 plus or 68 grade, even in just the Philadelphia coin. Now, the Philadelphia coins of the teens were just knockouts. Very well struck, very nicely done. This one, probably not the belle of the ball compared to all the other ones that I've seen. We were kind of spoiled when the Red Copper collection, the Stuart Blay collection, ended up on the auction scene a couple years ago. We've seen few pieces, like last week, we saw a few that had come back from the dead, resold out into the marketplace. I mean, those coins are spectacular. This one right here looks nothing like a Red Copper collection piece, but it's still a nice one. regarding that. And this one ended up selling for $1,380.38. There you go. A nice mid-level kind of price for a coin that looks about as mid-level as you could get. 1909S Sans the VDB. So this is just a regular 1909S. Don't let this one fool you. It's a tougher coin, especially in full red. PCGS assigned a 65 plus red grade on this one, and I'm totally fine with that. For the first year out, I guess there was a period of time where this was like low budget. If it kind of like what they allude to, the poor man's 1909S VDB would be the one without the VDB initials on the reverse. That's this one here. But these things are creeping up these days. This one here just so happens to sell for $2,055.38. And I wanted to let you guys know that there were 3 1909S VDBs that actually sold for less than this one, somewhere in that $1,200 to $1,500 range, and they were all falling within like XF40, 45 range, which is a very fine and collectible example, if and only if you're a completionist. Like if you really need the coin, but you want the validation of a problem-free, legitimate example, then that's what you would go for. I would say, and I've been kind of like that proponent of budgets when it comes to the Lincoln Cent series. If you're more of a casual armchair collector, like you want the coins to be nice, but you want them to be, relatively easy to sell later on in life when maybe, you're ready to get out of the collection, or maybe if something happened to you, this ends up in the hands of family members, that it would be easy to sell. So that's kind of like where the XF45s and things like that come into play for the VDB reverses. For these ones right here, there's nothing wrong with a just stunning full mint red example. I would take it all day long. Of course, there's everyone's popular favorite there, the regular 1909 Philadelphia VDB reverse. Is like one of those coins that you must add to your collection, right? It's like the steel cent, or possibly, if I had to go back and look at regular coins to add to your collection, a 1913 Type 1 Buffalo, in 1883, no cents, Liberty V nickel is another great one to add to your list. 1865 3-cent nickel is another great one. These are kind of like iconic one year shot type things. The 3-cent nickel, not so much. It's just an oddball denomination. You just gotta have one that's affordable. That'd be the one there. Same with this one. Now in the Mid-State 67 red, it's kind of a different story. That puts this one in a much more elite group. Price-wise, this one, by the way, is selling for $1,238.62. Just a very fine-looking specimen here. We also have an Indian head cent, and alert, mint red is where it's at. Especially today, if you are going to collect into this series, might as well go after mint red examples. If you like toned examples, go for the red browns. There was a time about 12, 13 years ago, right around the recession, where full mint red dates of a lot of Indian head cents were commonplace in the market. Things are a little bit different today. We're not seeing nearly as many full red Indian head cents. It doesn't matter what date. 1902, by all accounts, is a very common date. And you can make the argument that anything during the 1900s, from 1900 to 1909, are relatively common. 1909 might be a little bit tougher. It is a lower mintage, and that's for the Philadelphia coin, not the San Francisco. This one looks great. 66 plus red, CAC certified. It looks and feels rich, without even looking at the price tag. And it is. This one, by the way, $4,275 was the final hammer on this one. You gotta love the fact that it has 4 diamonds on the ribbon. Pretty easy to see. Full Liberty. Just an incredible, blistery, blazing example. What if I told you that cents were not the king of this week's Monday Market Report? You guys probably think I'm crazy. No, actually, we're giving that award to nickels. I think nickels deserves the nod here, with a couple less coins, no doubt. 1964 D over D. RPM FS501. We talked about one of these, right? A couple weeks ago. One ended up selling for like $7,700. That one was a mid-state 66, if I'm not mistaken. Okay? It did not have full steps. Neither does this one. Now all of a sudden we see two in 1 month, where before we hadn't even seen any of these on the radar of any auction site. But here you go. Second example, this time in a mid-state 65, right? Mid-state 65 means it's a lower grade than that previous one that sold for nearly $8,000. So this one, by reason of virtue, should be a lot cheaper, right? Yeah, in theory it should, but this one ended up selling for $4,000.50. Yeah, I threw into 50 cents for extra measure. You know, yeah, kind of wild. I would say bar none, because you know how many 64Ds the Denver Mint produced? Well in excess of 1 billion. This has got to be one of the most plentiful single dates by mintage alone. And there's got to be more of this RPM. That is how ridiculous this one is. It's probably more rare in mint state, and that's why we're kind of coming to this realization moment that, when something like this sells for $4,000 to $8,000, there's got to be a lot of implied rarity here, and there is. We haven't seen any of these sell prior to these two examples here within a 30-day span. 46D over inverted D. Man, we got some really interesting varieties. And I'm kind of figuring that's why Nichols gets a little bit of a nod this week compared to Sense, because of the variety thereof, right? FS501, it's a Cherry Picker's Guide variety. This is a beautiful coin too. Mid-state 66 with full steps. It's mid-40s, so it's a very well-struck time of nickel production, so I'll give it that. This one right here ended up selling for $1,755. Okay, proven once again that high-end varieties that all fall in the Cherry Picker's Guide allotment of these coins are all going to be quite desirable, regardless of what they are. When the grade hits, the money hits with it as well. 43S. Everybody loves a good wartime silver. Mid-state 68. Looks like getting a little bit of a prop up from the toning on this one, which any silver war nickel with this pastel light toning color to it that really doesn't drive you up the wall is very attractive. I like coins like this. Under certain lighting conditions, it'll look white as well. So that's kind of the compromise of having a coin that looks like this. So this one right here ended up selling for $1,469.25. Very much what I thought it would be in line for. The only thing missing is full steps. Full steps would this thing would be out of control. It'd be easily $5,000 to $6,000. Here's the big daddy, the granddaddy, the great grandfather daddy variety. I would say beating the doubled Monty hands down in rarity, in desirability, in value. Take a look at this thing. The 1942 D over horizontal D is a staple for anyone that collects into Jefferson nickels, whether you're casual or if you're hardcore at it. You guys know this variety right here. If you're trying to complete and collect everything and it had to be a certain grade, this can be a stopper. Check out this one. Mid-state 63 is barely a choice grade. 63 with full steps. Okay, full steps, by the way, is not a rarity for this particular date. All of the nickels produced very early on, prior to say 1948, 49, are all very well struck. The idea that finding a lot of these with full steps is not too far out in left field. And that even goes for some of the preeminent varieties like this one here. So this one, I was more than happy to see this one. Okay, number one. Number two, I was more than surprised at the sale price. This one, by the way, achieving $3,048.75 in just a 63 grade. There's not another coin in the Jefferson Nickel series that is recognized in the Cherry Picker's Guide or Red Book that we even come close to value than this one here in a 63. And that's also including our friend the Doubled Monty. There was also one of these here. Mid-State 66. Such a good grade, even though it is so close to full steps. But we could see the big gash right there on the left side of the steps that prevented it from achieving full steps. This one, DDR FS801, doubled Monticello and 5 cents. I mean, that's the hot button here with this one. This one doesn't quite come close to the 42D over horizontal D. That one is more of a coin of lore, while this one right here is a coin that can be found in all conceivable grades. I've found probably a half a dozen of these with regular searching over the last 20 years. This particular one right here sold for $1,886.62 in a 66, thereby coming nowhere close to the 42D. And we have to throw in one of the obsolete tenderloins of the meat market, that is the coin market. The 26S is a rarity, okay? Low mintage, very scarce. These things were workhorses. They didn't get saved in the highest state of preservation. If you were trying to put together a set that grades out anywhere like VF or XF or higher, expect to pay some premium on this coin. And that's even in those grades included. This one, however, is such a high-end example in the 64, and it's cacked with a green bean as well. Coming in at $14,257.12 is a real beauty. And that's even with the muted low-end luster bang coming off of this one, or not really coming off of this one, which is quite normal due to just strained quality during this time. Now we're on to dimes. Dimes actually showed up and showed out this week. I will give them that. More so, the reason why that they even were on the list has everything to do with some of the originality, the color, the toning. This 82D is no exception. This looks like the type of toning that you'd see on a coin that came out of a mid-set that was improperly stored. And when I mean improperly stored, it was stored in a very wet, hot climate, all right, to have this interaction that you see here. It's a very light, very attractive look. This one is a Mid-State 67 plus full bander, QA certified as well, which is similar to CAC, only they do more modern fare. This one right here sold for $1,191.38. It's on the list for the same reason that any early 80s quarter or half dollar is on the list. So they're just tougher, and the quality is not as great on this particular era. 64D. I mean, let's give it up to the color on this one. Whether you love it or hate it, the toning helps kind of put this one front and forward in the originality department, which means a lot. This one coming in as 67 plus full bands, all right, which is a very important grade here on that one. $1,687.50, which is a lot of money because it is. We also have this one here, quite possibly my favorite colorful coin this week. You can see why. The little kind of speckles of color on the obverse of the coin is actually quite unique and in my eyes attractive. It's something we don't see at all out there in the world of toned coins. 61D is a common enough coin that this one will make you blink and probably not care. It would take someone very special to recognize what we have here and actually send it off to a grading company. And sure enough, someone did just that. 67 plus full bands and $2,304, I bet, was not on your guys' bingo card for a realized price of this coin. I mean, who would have thought $2,300 for this thing is out of their freaking mind. We got a double mint twin here, 1959. This looks very eerily close to a coin that I have owned at one point in the past. It wasn't a 59. I believe it was like a 57, which is very similar to this. Although it did not have a 67 plus full band grade. I think mine was 66 full bands, which is quite nice. You know, it was a coin that we still have, and I love green as a color, and a lot of other people tend to agree. It's one of the most desirable colors in the toning spectrum, and this one, by the way, ended up with a $2,250 sale, which is quite nice. Glad to see dimes on the come up, and the final dime for the week, 1909 S Barber. It looks like two different coins here, okay? You have the blast white obverse, and then you have the crusty old kind of tarnish on the reverse of this one. NGC graded this one in a 65. A little bit of a split decision here of, what to better kind of like serve the grading purpose to, whether it's the obverse or the reverse, is anyone's guess. Great looking type piece, $2,540.25 is what it took to own this one here this week. We're going to end things off here on a couple quarters and a $50 that you guys were going to just love. Love. 1965, the coin that at the time everybody loved to hate. Nobody was ready to give up their silver, but when people were handed the new copper nickel clad quarter, they were less than impressed. Let's put it that way. So we have this one with a very light toned skin on there. Mid-state 67 plus. I mean, this is a registry set screamer. $1,581.25. It is not the finest grade, however, of this date. We also have this 1960 Washington, which, for most of the same reasons why the 65 showed up, is that it's a nice high grade. It's got a little bit of toning, especially on the reverse, giving it that originality that people yearn for. And the grade 67 plus is ginormous for this one, especially early 60s. $2,193.75 was what it would have taken to steal this one away from everyone. I thought this was going to be my last coin. I wanted it to be so badly because it signifies just the power of potential of the market. This is a 1924 Standing Liberty quarter. Boy, this thing's gorgeous. And it's not a Denver. It's not a San Francisco. It's just a Philadelphia. But in a 67 plus full head, CAC certified green bean. I mean, wow. This is indeed the top notch, the top rung of that ladder of greatness. And the price matches. Who would have thought that this one would be on the same conversation point as some of those other similarly priced coins? $86,625 was the final sale price. Dang. I kind of believe that maybe I could afford, like a pan pack $50 gold for the same amount of money, or give or take. I believe that would be for the round one, by the way, not the octagonal. $86,000. Seems like a lot of money, and that's that's where the video should have stopped, right? But curiosity kind of got to me. I was like, I wonder if there was anything neat in $50 that sold this week, and there was. This thing right here. 1970D, as you guys know, was only available in mid-sets. These were not produced for the final year of the 40% planchets. Were not produced for direct circulation. Okay, they did make a proof version too, which is only available in a proof set. Who would have thunk it? 1970S, but the Denver was the only one. They didn't make a Philadelphia coin, and that kind of signaled the end of this kind of like preservation of any sort of intrinsic value type of metal in coinage. It wasn't until years later where they added it to like specialized struck coins. So the coloration on this one is just lights out. You guys ought to go on to Great Collections website, pull this coin up, and look at their what they call their, I forgot what it's called, but they're kind of like true view images of this coin, and it is wild. It is wild how, I guess, how amplified the color is, you know, with a little bit of photographic magic, I suppose. This thing's wild. 66 is a bullshit grade. You know, it's if it wasn't for the color, this would be a sub $100 coin. But we have this one here in a 66. The color is what really drove this one home. $1,013.62. And that is 100% all color all day long. So that is going to go ahead and wrap things up for this edition of the Monday Market Report. And a little recap here. Information provided in this video is for educational use. None of this is financial. So please be responsible with your grading. I'm your host, Sean, with Blue Ridge Silverhound. Thank you so much for joining in on this video where we went down just, you know, the market of moderns. Post-1900 modern era is looking pretty silly these days. So we're going to see this continue on through the rest of the summer. There's no slowing down this rocket ship. And thank you guys for all of your support and all your views. Don't forget to hit that like button on the way out. That's all I ask for. Nothing too much else. I'll see you guys later. Enjoy this hobby. Keep on collecting, my friends. So long.